Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are watching the live feed on Facebook. We sometimes have challenges from time to time with these. We try to stay consistent on the time frame that we do these for you, the consumers that are watching the show, trying to follow the show. So we'll continue to do that. Typically, we do the shows on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, right about 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And we do that for the Facebook viewing audience and the social media. And, of course, then after we do this show, this becomes the podcast. We distribute the podcast all over the place. That's where we would prefer that you continue to download the podcast. You could listen to the shows at your convenience when it's right for you, and you can go back and listen to some of the past shows as well. So a couple different things before we get started today. For more information to download the podcast, go to iTunes and just type in Real Estate Radio Live. You could download it there. You go to our website at RERL-1544.com. That's RERL-1544.com. You can download the podcast at that location, or just go to Google and just type in Real Estate Radio Live. It's really easy to find, and it continues to grow. We have thousands and thousands of people that continue to download it each month. We want to continue that, and the reason why is that we want to continue to spread this information about real estate, education and information. For those that have been following the show, you know me, and you've been watching the show and following the show, that you know the focus has always been education and information. I try really hard to bring good content, information to you, valuable information you could use in your everyday life when it comes to real estate, living in general, a lot of different things. As you also know, we think out of the box, and what I mean by that is we have some different series that are taking place with Jack Russo, who's a attorney. He's a managing partner at the Computer Law Group. We do a series with Jack and starting something new in Silicon Valley. Jack is taking us through the whole startup process, and he and I typically try to do a show once a week, and that'll be tomorrow. So today, if you're watching the show or listening to the show, it's Tuesday. The next day, we should be having Jack on. We typically have him on Wednesdays or Thursdays. We'll do continued shows, more and more information, and again, with the focus, the objective, to educate and inform you, the consumer, with our guests and the content and information. All right, so let me bounce into the topic here today. I started to do this topic yesterday, but we weren't able to do the podcast because we had a foul-up with our technical work here. So anyway, here we go. I am going to redo this podcast. It never was launched as a podcast. Some of you may have seen this on the live feed on Facebook, so I apologize for the repetitive nature of maybe this show, seeing it again visually, but it never did make our podcast. So the topic today is the buyer's market. It's a buyer's market for the first time we've seen in years, and it's time to exercise your options. So I'll be talking directly in response to buyers, how this buyer market's changed, and what does that mean for the sellers as well. And this is a really, really good topic, and the reason why I think it's good, and I think most people will that follow the show and are buyers, is because we haven't seen a good buyer's market in years. We haven't seen it in years. This has been a predominantly strong, super strong seller's market for the last several years. Most of you know, if you're in this business, you understand it. And I think this is great. And I think it's great because it's a more level playing market now. And I think it's great. Now, if you're a seller a couple of years ago or a year ago, you're thinking, oh, God, the seller's market was great. But if you're a seller, and of course, it's depending on what side you're on, right? If you're a seller and it's a great seller's market, then you're happy as ever. If you're a buyer and it's a great buyer's market, then you're happy as ever. So I think in a market like this, it's exciting to me, and I think to most people in general, is that it's a more level playing field for both sides, the buyer and the seller. Historically, there's still low inventory in the Santa Clara County and in most places, which means it's not super low, but it's still low, which means it's still a good seller's market. The difference is the market has cooled off a little bit. I think, people are not going to be constantly paying prices going north every day, all day long, each week, each month, each year. Sometime at one point it's got to settle. Nothing goes up forever. Nothing. We've seen this with the stock market, with the real estate market, a lot of different things. It won't happen. So it's taken a breather of some sorts, and I think there's a combination of reasons for that. Number one, there's a little more inventory. Number two, people are a little skeptical because it has risen so much so quickly that there's some people that are really pulling back because of that, and I can understand that. So there's a dynamic in play there. Also the time of the year, summertime as we wrap it up, kids are going back to school, people are getting settled in. It'll be interesting. I think September, October are going to be some strong markets again. I think you're going to see some more activity pick up. So buyers, I'm going to really stress today, and I'll stress this for the next several weeks and maybe the next 30 days plus. Buyers, get out there and make the offers. I am seeing some wonderful things right now with buyers in the marketplace. I helped thousands of people with loans over the last decade or so, and I can tell you I'm working with 20 to 30 people plus right now in the pipeline, approved, out there, ready to buy homes. And buyers, for the first time in the last 3, maybe plus 4 years, you have an opportunity to have some options. Exercise those options. That's the topic of the show today. Buyers, get out there and exercise those options. What does that mean? And the reason I want to bring these up, some of them may sound obvious, but they may not because we've been in a seller's market for so long. So some of these obvious that may sound obvious to some people may not to others because we've been in a crazy strong seller's market. So buyers, what does that mean? Work with your realtors to look at the offer. What's the offer going to be? How long's the home been sitting on the market? What are the dynamics here? Here's the exciting news. You could actually make offers now with contingencies. You haven't been able to do that in years for the most part. You could ask for credit. You could ask a lower price, right? I mean, if someone's asking $1 million for a house today, if it was a year ago or 6 months ago, you'd have 15 or 20 people lined up making multiple offers. There's a good chance it would have went over. Right now, today, fast forward, if you list a home for $1 million, I'm not just saying, this is just an example, that home may sit for a couple of weeks or a month before there's any interest. You may not get one offer. You may get 5 or 6 people through an open house over the weekend, where before you might get 100 people through an open house. So the market has changed. What that means is for buyers, you have more options. And I'm going to continue to say this because I want you to exercise those options. I want you to talk about them. I want you to discuss them with your lender, whoever you're working with, your real estate agent, whoever you're working with. Now, if that home's $1 million and there's not any activity, put in an offer in. Someone might say, well, Joe, that's great, but I'm nervous to put in an offer because if no one's making offers on it, what if the price continues to go down, and what if the market's correcting? I've been through this before. I'm going to tell you that I wouldn't worry so much about that right now for a couple of different reasons. One, if it's a primary residence that you're going to live in for a while, you think you're going to live in for a while, I wouldn't worry so much about overpaying at this point. Now, if they're asking $1 million and there's not any activity, and you think to yourself, gosh, what if the market's going to correct 5 or 10%? Well, then put in an offer for $900,000. Put in an offer for $950,000. Put in an offer for $975,000 plus $25,000 in credit. You could do all kinds of different things on your offer. Now you have that flexibility. You could even make an offer based on a contingency that, hey, listen, I'll pay you $1 million or $950,000 for that house, but not until I sell my house. And in today's market, believe it or not, they may accept that offer. I'm working with several right now. I can't tell you, it is interesting how things have changed on a dime. I mean, they have flipped, changed, snapped. I'm working with several people right now that have made offers on a home. Listen to this. And the sellers have accepted contingency offers, which means they're saying, yeah, okay, I'll agree to sell you to my house for $1 million. And you know what? I'm also going to give you 45 days or 60 days or 30 days, or I'm going to give you 2 weeks to see if you can get your house in contract, because guess why? Because buyers have more options, and guess what? Sellers have fewer options. So the switch is flipped. It's been flipped. It's not 100% drastic. It's just what I would call a more normalized market now. So you have buyers that have some options, and I'd love to hear that, especially because it's been tough for the last several years. So what do you do with those options? I just gave you some examples. What I would do is this. Buyers, work with your realtors and your lenders, specifically with your realtor on the offer. Figure out what you want to do. Come up with a strategy. Again, if you think the market's got a little softening or some room, then ask a little less. Offer a little less. And here's the other piece that I'm a big, big fan of, an advocate, is if you could strategically get some credit from the seller in a transaction, I'm a big fan of that right now, and here's the reason why. I do financing. Rates are still really good. You could still get fixed 30-year money in the mid 4%, and again, that depends on your credit and your down payment and a lot of different things, but you could still get 30-year fixed money in the 4.5% range, which is good. It's really good. But what if you get a better rate? What if you get that rate down to 4% on the 30-year? What if you get that rate below 4% on the 30-year? People would say, well, how do you do that, Joe? You ask for credit from the seller. That could be part of your negotiation or your strategy. You work with your lender, someone like me, and you say, come to me, and you and I sit down, and I'm doing this with everybody right now, by the way, that's buying a home. I'm saying, have you took a look at the option of asking for a credit? Most people will say no. Okay, well, let's sit down. What's that look like? Now, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. It doesn't mean you're going to ask for it, but I run through the exercise with my clients, and I would recommend that you do the same with whoever you're working with. And it goes like this. Let's say you're borrowing $700,000, and you're buying $1 million home, and you're right now, let's just say for sake of this example information, you're getting a 4.5% interest rate for 0 points, no origination cost. You're paying standard closing costs on a 30-year fix, let's say, 4.5%. And you come to me, we sit down and say, okay, well, what kind of credit would we need to get that interest rate to 4% or even less than 4%? So then we look at the market and we look at the cost to buy down that interest rate. So the way you do that, again, it will depend on the lender, the investor, the market. A lot of things go into this. But let's just say that we've determined that for $17,000, we could use that $17,000 to buy that interest rate down to 3.875. And again, this is just an example. I'm not saying it can happen, would happen, or if that's what it would be. It's an example. Let's say we determined that it costs $17,000 to buy down that interest rate to 3.75. That could save you $200 to $300 a month in a payment. That's a lot of money. And the seller's giving you that credit in this example. I like that option. Now, someone might say, well, Joe, why don't we just make an offer for $18,000 less? You could do that too. But here's a strategy, and this is just a little bit of a strategy. There's a bunch in there, and if you're working with a good realtor, they'll know these strategies because they're good. There's some really good realtors out there, and by the way, if you need referrals for some, always let me know. I have some great realtors I work with. But here's just a little bit of a strategy, right? So, as an example, some people, especially the listing agent or the sellers, may be more willing to give you a $17,000 credit than drop the price by $17,000. You might ask, well, why is that, Joe? Because it's $17,000 coming out of their pocket either way. That is correct. One of the reasons they may want to do that is because initially in the contract where it shows the listing, they're asking $1 million, and instead of taking that and they reduce the price, it's in the contract right away. People know it right away. That price has been reduced right away. Instead of reducing the price on the multiple listing services, or everybody in the whole world knows, hey, I just dropped my price $18,000 or $17,000. Instead, they do a credit. So that doesn't show up until the transaction's closed. So initially, once it closes, it will show up. It will show up. But initially, that could be a strategy because it doesn't alarm the rest of the world that, oh my gosh, those guys just dropped their price $17,000, and does that mean they're going to drop it again soon, and should we wait? And so there's a lot of things that go into that you have to be careful of. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break, and this is for the sake of the podcast. So for those that are watching on Facebook, thank you. Stick with us. Don't go away if you have the time to watch us, and we're going to take a quick 1-minute break. This is for the podcast. I'll be back with you in just a second.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Getting ready to buy or sell a home in 30, 60, or 90 days? Check out BundleSelect.com to find out how you could save 20% or more on your entire transaction, real estate, lending, and title. With BundleSelect.com, technology and a personal concierge are at your service to save you time and money. BundleSelect's hand-picked team of experts will compete for your business so you'll save thousands of dollars by bundling real estate, lending, and title services. BundleSelect.com gives you all the control, including using your own realtor. I'm Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, and I have been on the radio educating consumers for years. I'm here to tell you BundleSelect.com is the best way to save money on real estate. By bundling services, you could save tens of thousands of dollars. This savings model could save you money on your move, lower your interest rate, or cover your closing costs. Visit BundleSelect.com. That's BundleSelect.com.
The estimated minimum savings are based on a comparison with the national average. Individual results may vary, and the estimated savings are not guaranteed. Bundle Select Inc. is a licensed real estate broker. California Bureau of Real Estate Broker license number 004666902. Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are following us on Facebook, and appreciate also those that continue to download the podcast. We'd love to have you do that. The show continues to grow thanks to you, the consumers, that have been so kind and generous to follow the show, watch the show, participate, endorse the show, pass it on to people. Most have been following the show. I did live radio for about 7 years, and now doing just podcast. I might be doing live radio again soon. You never know. But right now, just podcasting, because podcasting is really the better vehicle for people these days. People are busy, and not everybody has the time to set aside to listen to a live radio show at 3 o'clock and be in their car or on a radio or be somewhere near where they could do it. Of course, you could listen to it online. You could stream and listen to it online. You don't need to do it on a radio. But not everybody's near at a device or could afford to take that time away to do that. So the reason the podcasts are so successful these days is people could download podcasts and listen to it anytime you want at your convenience. And they're quicker. They're typically, our podcasts are 30 minutes or so, and that's what people like. They like that time frame, right about 30 minutes. Any more is a little bit too much. Any less maybe not be enough. So anyway, we'll continue to do that, and I want to thank everyone that continues to support the show, follow the show. It means a lot. We have a lot of great guests. We'll continue to have a lot of great guests, and I promise I will continue to offer value to you. And I think it's an example like today, the show, talking about real examples of a buyer's market, how the market's changing, some of the strategies around that. These are the kinds of things that I want to try to offer to you instead of just giving you stuff that you can get anywhere. And this is a big focus of mine. You'll hear me say this all the time, and I want to continue to repeat it because it helps me too, because I want to be stronger, I want to be better, I want to do better shows, I want to have better guests, I want to continue to raise the bar in what we do here at Real Estate Radio Live. And what that does is push me to make sure that when I get on the air or when I do these podcasts, that I have good information that I could share with you that I'm going to actually educate and inform with. And I've given examples before. Like today I'm talking about a buyer's market, how it's changing, why it's changing, some of the strategies, buy down the interest rate, ask for a lower, maybe if you think the market's going to adjust, go in at 10%. I'm going to give you some real examples that I know work because I'm in this every single day. Instead, a lot of the shows, or what I don't want to be, is in one of these shows that just spews out statistics all day long or says, makes opinions or thoughts or philosophies, which is great. Everybody wants, I have philosophies about everything, but I want to give you tools, information that you could actually use to save you money, to gain you access to properties, to maybe highlight some things you didn't know about. So I'm going to continue to do that, and we're going to try to do that at Real Estate Radio Live. So today's show is Buyer's Market, Time to Exercise Your Options. So we're talking a lot about options today, and I'm going to finish up the show doing that. We talked about some of the options would be if you're a buyer and you're concerned about the market, you think there's some more room for softening, then maybe option 1 is offer a lower price. Option 2 and or could be ask for some credit for closing costs. It could get you a better interest rate. It could pay for your closing costs. See, especially first-time home buyers, a lot of times first-time home buyers, let's face it, you're scrapping everything together to get that down payment addition to the down payment, you need closing costs. There's closing costs associated with these transactions. So if you're scrapping for that cash, and let's say you're $10,000 short, or let's say, I'll give you an example, and I've used this one before. Let's say that you really need $8,000 to $10,000 in a perfect world once the home closes, right? So once the home closes, you need $8,000 to $10,000 to put a new floor in because the floor is torn up or the carpet's terrible or something. So you go to the sellers, you go to your realtor, and you say, hey, listen, I just have enough cash to close this thing, right? We got enough reserves, cash, we're good to go. Here's the deal, though. Once this place closes, I love this place, I want to replace the floor. So you go to the seller and you ask for an $8,000 credit. And what does that mean? Does that mean the seller gives you $8,000 and writes you a check? No. Here's what it means. The seller gives you an $8,000 credit in escrow. So here's what that does. That $8,000 credit, it's like a debit and credit, right? That goes towards your cost. So let's say your total costs are $12,000. Let's just, okay? So when they put that $8,000 credit in, now you're only coming in with an additional $4,000 for closing costs. So you're hanging on to that additional $8,000 that you were prepared to pay. Okay? So now that $8,000 is in your hand, in your bank account, because they gave you a credit to offset that. So now when that place closes, you could go buy your new floor, get your new floor put in. That's another example to leverage an option with the buyer's market. I could go on and on. There's a lot of different things you could do. Ask for credit to cover your closing costs, to buy down the interest rate, lower the price, offer more contingencies. If you're concerned about your house, say, hey, listen, I really love your house. And, you know, I love give and takes, too. I love it when everybody wins. And what I mean by that is try to structure a win-win if you can. In a negotiation or something like this, anytime someone's always trying to say, get the last word in or make an extra buck or get one over on you, it's likely not going to work. The best way these transactions work is when everybody can come together and say, hey, how do we create a win-win? Then someone doesn't feel like they're ripped off. Someone doesn't feel like they're taken advantage of. So one of the other options you have is, you know, let's say you have a home to sell and you're going to this and yourself, right? And you see this house you love, it's $1 million and they're not accepting any offers, and someone gave an offer at $980 and they don't really like that offer, and you come to them and you say, listen, I'll tell you what, I really love this house, and I'll tell you, I'm going to pay the asking price, even though I know it's been on the market for a month and you only have an offer or two, and I think it sounds like it's less. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm willing to write a contract and offer you $1 million, your asking price for this home. However, in exchange, what I'd like for that is I'd like 30 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. I'd like 2 or 3 weeks to put my house on the market and get an offer. And if I could get an offer on my house in 2 weeks of this price or better, then I'm going to buy your house for $1 million. In other words, I'm going to pay you what most people aren't willing to pay you right now, but you're doing me a favor because you're allowing me to put my house on the market and test the market. And let's say I'm trying to sell my house for $800,000, right? So you go to the sellers and the realtor and you guys negotiate and you say, listen, here's the deal. I'll write a contract. I'm willing to pay you $1 million only if you give me 2 weeks to get my house on the market and accept offers, okay? We're going to put it on the market for $799. We want $800,000. If I get $780 or more, we're good. We're going to take that offer, we're going to move along, and we're going to pay you $1 million for your house. You could do these kinds of things. Have these conversations with your realtor. Have these conversations around the strategic goals of what you could do in these markets. Too many people, they get hung up on, you know, close quick, close fast. We need to do this. We need to do that. No, well, yeah, sometimes, but you don't need to do it now. And right now you have options. So buyers, that's another option. That's a perfect example. You're offering a win-win for everybody. This person over here wants to sell their house for $1 million. They're not getting offers for $1 million. It's obvious. Otherwise, the house would be on the house would show pending, right? So they're not getting offers for $1 million. You know that. Okay. So go in, tell them, listen, we may be paying a bit of a premium. We may be paying $20,000, $25,000 of premium. We know that. It's a funny market. It's a softening market. But I'll tell you what, we're willing to do that if you give us the time that we need to get the money that we want. That to me is an example of a win-win. And right now, buyers, these are the types of things you could do. These are the types of things you should be talking to your realtor about. These are the types of things you should be talking to your lender about. As always, I help people with lending all the time on a regular basis. We do one of the biggest mortgage bankers in California. We do a lot of business, and we want to be able to help you. So if you need help on the lending side, maybe you just need to run some questions by me. Maybe you need to look at some scenarios. Maybe you want to just set up a phone conversation or a consultation where you come into the office and we talk about all the stuff that I'm talking about right now so that you're better prepared to become a stronger buyer. I think it's great. I really do, that we have a market that's changed, because I think this is why. I think it's great because now you're in a situation where more people could benefit, and not just the sellers. Right now you're in a situation where buyers could also benefit. But sellers can too, don't get me wrong. Sellers, I'm going to talk a couple of minutes about the expectations and what you have going on. You have had quite the run. All you sellers, you have had quite the run the last several years, and enjoy it, and it's wonderful, and we all appreciate it, and we're all better for it. That's wonderful, great. Everybody would admit to that. Times have changed a little bit, so sellers, you have to reset your expectations and understand that things have changed a little bit. So your house might be on the market a little bit longer. You might get a less of an offer. You might have to put that house on the market for a different price than you'd like to. There's a lot of things that go into this. And as a seller, just understand this, and I believe in this. If your house is priced properly, it may not fly off the market. You may not have 20 people standing in line waving money at you like it was a year ago or 6 months ago, but your house will sell. And I don't mean to say that to guarantee, but if your house is priced right, eventually your house will sell. When I'm saying eventually, I honestly believe it'll sell in inside of 60 days, no more than 60 days. And I'm just making this statement because I'm working on data and information that I study every day. Inventory is still low. There are still buyers out there. There are people that make a lot of money and good wages in the Silicon Valley here. They could afford to buy that home, most of these homes, okay? So if your house is priced right and you give it a chance and you have some flexibility, I'll bet you 10 to 1 your house sells inside of 60 days or no more than 60 days. And the reason I say that is that inventory is still low enough. There's still enough demand out there where people are out looking. Yes, are they pulling back a little bit? Absolutely. Are they worried about this a little bit? Absolutely. Are they standing back some people and looking and going, well, I'm going to wait a little while because there may be some softening here? Yeah, that's happening. But ultimately, there's not enough inventory out there to cause a complete stall in this marketplace. Something else could cause a stall in it, but there's not enough inventory out there to cause a stall in this marketplace. There's enough inventory out there now, enough doubt out there now to cause a slowdown, to cause a flattening, to cause a market shift and change, which we're in right now, as I discussed, a buyer's market. But it's still a seller's market. And some people would say, well, you're kind of on the fence with that. Well, because it's unique. I would tell you that the last several years, most of us would agree it was a super, super strong seller's market, right? I mean, all of us could agree on that. But I would say right now we are in a nice market. And what I mean by that is buyers have options now. It's not a one-sided deal anymore. So get out there, make those options, make them work, put together a plan. And for those that are listening to this podcast, if it's not you, it's maybe a friend, family member, coworker, or whatever, encourage the message. Pass this podcast along. Encourage people to get out there and buy, especially right now when there's a buyer's market. Those people that were buying, looking to buy FHA or 5% down or 100% financing, all the unique financing that was not available. I shouldn't say not available. The financing was available, but you had no chance. You had zero chance to get a home 6 months ago or a year ago with FHA financing around this area or 5% down or contingencies. And what I'm saying is I'm not overreacting here. Get out there and make those offers and make it happen now. The reason why is because if this market changes again, and it can, back to a super, super seller's market, you're going to be out in the cold again. Take this window of opportunity. Use your options available. Right now, buyers, pass this on. Maybe it's not you. Maybe, again, it's a coworker, a friend, a family member. I encourage you, get off the fence. If you're thinking right now as a buyer, Joe, I'm going to step back and I'm going to wait because this market's going to adjust, big mistake. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy if you don't feel right. I'm saying it's a big mistake if you think that this market's going to correct 20 or 30%. Now, none of us know that for sure, and I'm not saying that I do, and I would never forecast that and say that. But when you look at the statistics and the data to support what I'm talking about here, unless something happens that we don't know about, no one, or I could not imagine, a setback like that. That's why I say get out there and make those offers. Even if you're skeptical, even if you think the market's going to pull back a little bit, then make an offer for 10% less. Make an offer for 15% less if you think. They could just say no, and you come back and you counter and you make something work. I've seen so many buyers get beat up the last several years. I would love to see you get back out there and make those offers. What I hate to see is 6 months from now, it go back to a strong seller's market, and then a lot of those buyers be shaking their head or being frustrated and saying, God, I wish I'd have jumped back in that window of opportunity. And I'd hate to have you miss out on that. All right, we're going to have to cut things off here today. I want to thank you again for those that are tuning in, watching on Facebook. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. For those that want to download the podcast, again, go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.